Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is Michael Carrick's press conference reaction as he talks Patrick Dorgu injury update, Joshua Zirkzee injury update, Matthijs de Ligt injury update, also Bruno Fernandes future, the January transfer window. Will Manchester United expect a transfer before deadline day on Monday? Never say never, says Michael Carrick. A lot more to get into. Very complimentary of Marco Silva's Fulham and says Manchester United cannot take them for granted. We have to play the game in the same ways we did against Arsenal, against Man City. Absolutely loved Michael Carrick's press conference. I think he speaks really well. I think he speaks with wisdom. He speaks with understanding of the club. Maybe we didn't get all the answers we would want, but he was quite diplomatic at times. But what I will say is I am absolutely buzzing to step into Old Trafford on Sunday. I'm literally itching to see Manchester United play football again. And when you're in that sort of mood, when a manager gets you in that sort of mood, it makes you feel positive. I know that there is protest going on at the Fulham game. I know that there's other things that the United fan base are frustrated about, and I understand that frustrations. I share the frustrations on a lot of things. However, what I do want to say is I don't want that to kind of overshadow what a good job Michael Carrick has done since he's come into Manchester United. You know, you can appreciate what Carrick's doing. You can get behind the players. I think the squad is super likeable at the minute. And then you could also be frustrated about how the window's playing out. Why aren't we backing Carrick in this window to take us to Champions League? Because we've got a huge chance at it. Why are we not going out there and trying to supplement our squad to do everything we can to get Champions League football? You can be on them two pages at the same time is what I'm sort of trying to say. Also, everyone, welcome, happy Friday, can I just say? But also, happy Bruno Fernandes 6 years at Manchester United to all those who celebrate. Bruno Fernandes, this time 6 years ago, he was signing for Manchester United, and what a signing he has been. Magnifico is what I would say on Bruno Fernandes. What a player, what a captain in my opinion, and I know there's so much debate over whether he is a club legend or not. I would say he is. And so many people laugh at me. They'll say it's because of my age. They'll say it's because you're 24, Beth, is the reason why you think Bruno Fernandes is a club legend. I think he is. My time of being at Old Trafford, what he has done in the period of time that Manchester United have been in, he feels like the heartbeat whilst Manchester United Football Club has been on life support. For me, he's the heartbeat that kept going. He's not the only one. That he's not just held the club up by himself, but he has been huge in a period where Manchester United have struggled. So for me, yeah, that's what I would say on Bruno Fernandes. I do think he is a club legend, and that's not reactionary. I've thought it for quite a while now, and I was kind of on the edge about it, but I think it. The heartbeat whilst on life support. I'm quite happy with that one. Anyway, let's get on with the show and get into Michael Carrick's quotes, because I think there's some really good ones in here, and there's some important injury updates on transfers as well. First up, he talks about Patrick Dorgu and he says, Pat, unfortunately, is going to be out for a period of time. We're still working through that. It'll be a few weeks. How many weeks? We'll have to wait and see. Yeah, I watched the press conference. I've not only, kind of got the quotes up here, I actually watched it, and he did seem quite downbeat about Patrick Dorgu's injury. I mean, it's very, very unfortunate for Patrick Dorgu. We've spoken about that. I feel for him. Just when he was gathering momentum, coming into his own in a Manchester United shirt, he really started to look like a quality player, and he was playing with so much confidence, which is always a good way to play as you're a footballer, and the fans were loving it, and he was important to us. He still is important to us, but he's injured, and Michael Carrick looked really sad that was the case, as you would be, because you're sad for the player, but you're also sad for yourself. He's picked Patrick Dorgu to start on the left wing in his first 2 games as Manchester United manager. He clearly rated him quite highly. He clearly thought it was important. 2 very important games, 2 huge games, and he's injured for what it seems like. From Carrick's tone and the way he spoke about it, it seems like it's going to be quite a long time. So he says he doesn't know how many weeks. He'll have to wait and see, but it's a serious one, and we're wishing Patrick Dorgu the speediest of recoveries, of course, on that one. On other injuries, on Joshua Zirkzee and de Ligt, he said Josh is back in training this week, which is good news, and de Ligt isn't in training with us yet. Gutted about de Ligt. I'm still gutted about de Ligt. I know Ligt and Harry have done super, super well in the last 2 games, but both of them have had their own injury problems over the course of their career at Manchester United, and I'm just worried all it takes is one little knock. All it takes is something, and then you are a little bit on the back foot. Don't get me wrong, Lenny Yoro's played plenty of games for Manchester United. You know, he can come into the team. Same with Aiden Heaven. He's played some really good games for Manchester United this season. And I think, you know, you'd have to trust them to kind of come in. But what Michael Carrick's done since he's come in is he's relied on that experience. And I think adding that experience into the team has massively helped us. And if we're quite honest, Martinez, De Ligt and Maguire are our 3 best centre-backs. Lenny Yoro and Aiden Heaven are learning, and they will get there, and they look like such promising young talents, and I'm excited for the future. But you want them 3 players available. So I'm gutted De Ligt still isn't back. It's been such a long period with him out where he was having such a top-class season. People were talking about him being one of the best centre-backs in the league at one point, and other fans were. I mean, I've seen Liverpool fans talking about how good De Ligt is. So gutted for De Ligt that he's still out, and I just want him back because I think he's super important. And let's hope he's back as soon as possible. Didn't really give much detail on either Patrick Dorgu or De Ligt, but De Ligt's still going to be out for probably a number of games. He's not even back in training yet, and he's been out for such a long time. And like we said, I know Patrick Dorgu is probably going to be quite a while. I'd probably say 8 weeks on Patrick Dorgu at least. There was rumours it could be 10. But Joshua Zirkzee is back in training, whether it'll be to play for Manchester United or whether he'll get a move away. We'll have to wait and see, because there is rumours of not Patrick Dorgu. There is rumours of Joshua Zirkzee still leaving Manchester United before deadline day, and Michael Carrick does touch on that in a little while, so stay tuned for that as well. Get your comments in, by the way. Smash a like on the video. How excited are you for Carrick Ball on Sunday? I'm absolutely buzzing for it. He's also spoke on the transfer window, Michael Carrick, and this is what he has said. So this is on transfer deadline day, fast approaching. He said, "We're working through it. You can never say never, because a lot can happen and situations can be thrown up. Sometimes it's in our control and sometimes it's not. We're calm. We've shown that what we're capable of doing as a team, and we'll see what the next few days bring." Very diplomatic, that answer from Michael Carrick. When I was watching him, he got asked something along the lines of, you know, with Patrick Dorgu's injury and, you know, with the transfer window still open, are you planning to go into the transfer market? I mean, are you expecting any new signings to come in? And he basically said, you know, we're still working through it, probably still having conversations about it. And it's probably, what can we get? Michael Carrick, let's be honest, he's going to probably want some sort of depth, because we know, God forbid, and we don't want it to happen, if anything happens to Kobbie Mainoo or Casemiro, there's not much there for Michael Carrick to use. And with Patrick Dorgu getting injured as well, it's, you know, 1 down in the front line already and at fullback cover. He's quite a versatile player, Patrick Dorgu. So Michael Carrick, as a manager whose aim is to get top 4 for Manchester United and get Champions League football, you'd probably say top 5, because that 5th spot probably will get Champions League. It's a 99% chance going to get Champions League, tongue-in-cheek, but it really is, like, basically nailed on to get Champions League 5th spot in the Premier League. You're going to want that, because, you know, we could, and again, touch wood, it doesn't happen, we could play Fulham and, you know, Casemiro could pull up with an 8-week hamstring injury. We don't want it to happen, but it could. And you're going to want that sort of depth. He's not really used Ugarte. Mason Mount's only had a few minutes off the bench. He does speak about Mason Mount, and I think Mason Mount's a quality player, but he's more of a player that's for the front line and for Bruno's position. He's probably going to want something. It's just whether they can get that deal done between now and Monday, and what options are there in the market. There should have been way more research gone into it. We should have had more options available to us because of the research that we've done. And I do feel like we have missed the boat not exploring the January market more. Like I said, and I've said it on previous shows, I wasn't expecting Anderson to be holding up a United shirt in the January window. Like, I'm not expecting that, but I expected Manchester United to maybe put a shortlist together of players that were available and we could get in January, and, you know, maybe, you know, some signings in there that might shock the fans a little bit, to be like, oh, do you know what a bargain, what a find he was. For example, when we went and signed Aiden Heaven last January window for £1 million, what a signing that has been for £1 million. You trust him to come in if Lisandro Martinez got injured, and he's a good young player that looks very, very capable and could be a future starter for Manchester United. We signed him for £1 million. we've done it before. Like, I'm not asking for Anderson holding up the United shirt. I'm just asking for a little bit of, I don't know, a little bit of hunger, ambition in the market to make sure we go out there and do something to help Carrick between now and the end of the season. So we're not the scouts and we're not the people making the decisions. But when you're, at a club like Manchester United and your profession is to go and scout footballers for Manchester United, you would expect them to be able to come up with something that we can get in January to support us from now until the end of the season. And this isn't me on having a go at the scouts, by the way. We've actually heard that the scouts inside Manchester United are very, very good. They're just not trusted as much as they should be. Like, they've scouted some excellent players before, but they've just not had the sign-off from the hierarchy. So who knows if Manchester United are going to sign a player before January. I mean, Michael Carrick might know he's not going to sign a player, but he might just not want to, kill the hope within the fan base. He might not want to come out and say, no, this will be our squad now until the end of the season. We're not going to sign anyone, because there might be a little bit of hope in the fan base still that we could get something over the line, and they don't want to kill that off. Who knows what the sort of background of that message is and where it's coming from. But if we take it at face value, Michael Carrick's having discussions with the ownership, he's having discussions with the board, and never say never, we might bring someone in, but it's probably unlikely. He's probably sat there saying, look, if we can get someone of decent quality and ability, let's get them in, because who knows if we get another injury like Patrick Dorgu's, and I don't really want to be in that position. We're already quite light in the midfield as it is. And the hierarchy's probably sat there saying, well, there's not really much option to bring in without spending money that we want to spend on big players in the summer. So I don't know what to do here. They're probably stuck between a rock and a hard place of, do we spend that money on a player that might not be a long-term solution for Manchester United just to kind of get some depth from now until the end of the season? Or do we wait and risk it and save that money to go all in on the Andersons and the Blabers of the world in the summer? And to that, I would come back with, there should have been way more planning gone into, if you have to spend a little bit of money, it's going to be worth it because the scouting's there, the research is there, and it's a player that might not be, an out-and-out first-teamer Bruno Fernandes impact signing right now, but can be a really good future player for us, for example, like an Aiden Heaven. So, yeah, it's interesting. Let's see what happens. Never say never, says Michael Carrick, but if I had to bet on whether Manchester United were going to bring in anyone before deadline day or before the end of the transfer window, I would say no. I don't think Manchester United will sign anybody unless, God forbid, we get a really, really bad injury at the weekend, which we're hoping everybody comes out of it fully fit. But I don't think Manchester United will sign somebody before the end of the transfer window. I'm going to be super honest on that. Thank you, everyone, for getting your comments in. Smash a like on the video if you haven't already. Again, what can I say? I'm excited for Michael Carrick to take to the touchline at Old Trafford on Sunday and see what he's got against a team like Fulham. Look, Fulham are doing really well. Fulham are doing really well in the Premier League. They're not that many points behind us at all. If I actually go and look at it now, let me just get up the Premier League table. I'm pretty sure if they beat us on Sunday, they'd only be 1 point behind us. So Man United currently sit in 4th on 38 points and Fulham are 7th on 34 points. So yeah, if they beat us on Sunday, which let's hope they don't, they would only be a point behind us. It's very, very close, and Marco Silva has got them playing pretty well. So it's important, as Carrick does say, that we don't take Fulham for granted, but it's these sort of games where Man United has slipped up beforehand. These are the type of games that Manchester United slip up in. Have we turned over a new leaf? Have we got the same firepower to go into that game against Fulham as we did against City, against Arsenal? And it's a pivotal game in Manchester United's season. I think if we beat Fulham, I think we could really go on a great run and secure that Champions League football. I think if we pull up and have a slip up at Fulham, the mentality could get into the squad's head, and the fan base is going to be frustrated as well, because it just feels like two steps forward, 1 step back, or 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and it just feels like we need to get off the ground. We need to. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Derby win and that win at the Emirates were absolutely fantastic. Like, January 2026, what a month. I have loved it as a United fan, and I'm buzzing off them performances. But that's the test. Fulham at Old Trafford, can you follow it up? Can you do that? And that's where you really see if this Manchester United side has turned over this new leaf, and we are, going to go gung-ho Champions League football, and let's go after it, because it's a pivotal game in Manchester United's season. I truly do believe that. Michael Carrick on home form. So he got asked about the home form and, being able to beat sides like Fulham at Old Trafford. He said, consistency is the key to success. It is one of the most difficult things to achieve. It takes so much and having to cope emotionally. We are working on it. We have a great couple of weeks, but it's about keeping in mind, it's about keeping the mind in the right place. So I remember when Michael Carrick was answering this, he said, we don't want to get carried away. It's been a great couple of weeks, but you've got to keep the mind in the right place, and consistency is one of the hardest things to achieve in football, but that's something we've got to do. He said it's not just tactically that we need to work with the players, it's emotionally as well, and that's a huge side of the game. And I do think that is what Michael Carrick has managed to tap into in his short time at Manchester United. That's why we got the results against City and Arsenal. Of course, there was tactics that went into it. Of course there was. You can see that. I mean, we saw the breakdown on Monday Night Football from both games from Jamie Carragher. Brilliant insight and great tactics went into it. But there is also an emotional side that you can clearly see that Michael Carrick is working on. And again, a big test is the game against Fulham at Old Trafford. Can you bring it in that type of game? He also got asked about Lisandro Martinez's comments. If you didn't see, Lisandro Martinez was speaking about Michael Carrick and how in such a short period of time he's touched his heart, and he will give absolutely everything for him because he's touched his heart. And he was really glowing about Michael Carrick, to be honest, and speaking about how games like Fulham, we have to be at the same mentality. We have to give everything. It doesn't change. And Carrick has said this. He said, you've got to play with feeling, emotion, excitement. It's something we speak about. What we have just touched on is something else. Ligt has epitomised, Ligt has epitomised that with how he's gone about it. We are aware about what it takes. We need to respect the game and how good Fulham are. So Carrick just saying that Ligt and Martinez epitomises the emotion that you need to show in the game, and how important it is that we bring that same energy into Fulham that we have for the likes of the derby and the Arsenal game, and it's super, super important for sure. He also got asked a little bit more on Patrick Dorgu's injury and if he feels like he's got the cover to compensate for that. And he said, it's not ideal. We don't want to lose good players, but it is part of having a squad and being able to cover certain things. It is the nature of the beast. And I thought that was a good answer from Michael Carrick, because within football, there's always players listening, there's always a message that's going out, and you want to keep your squad confident and playing for you at the same time. So if he just came out and was like, it's sad that Patrick Dorgu's injured, but we've got Cunha, we've got Mason Mount, we'll be absolutely fine, it could make Patrick Dorgu feel not so important. And some people might sit there and say it's not that deep, but footballers read into things, and a lot of it is subconscious as well. So he's answered that by saying it's not ideal. Patrick is an important player. And you can see in the way that he's speaking, he's stressing how important Patrick Dorgu is and how gutted he is that he's injured. But he's also saying, we've got a squad. And he's probably going to give that opportunity to Cunha at the weekend after his last two cameos off the bench have been really, really positive. And, we've affected the game in such a good way that they both contributed to wins. I mean, his goal was the winner against Arsenal at the Emirates, and his assist for Dorgu in that Manchester derby kind of secured the win. So he's going to give Cunha confidence there, but he's also not taking it lightly. He's kind of relaying that message to Patrick Dorgu that, get back fit, you're really important to me, and it'll make Dorgu feel as if what he's doing is the right thing, and it'll make him feel important to Michael Carrick and his squad and to Manchester United. It's good man management in that sort of way. He's also got asked about Joshua Zirkzee, and he said, Joshua is just trying to work and get fit. It was great to have him back. That's as far as it goes. And on Joshua Zirkzee, the question he actually got asked there when I'm reading that quote was, if a transfer does come in, it's been very well reported that a player will go out, and it seems most likely it would be Joshua Zirkzee that's going to leave Manchester United. So if you do get someone in, is Josh going to leave? And he basically just answered. He avoided the question and was like, Josh is just trying to work to get fit. It's great to have him back, and that's as far as it goes. So he's not even going into detail about Joshua Zirkzee potentially leaving Manchester United. Can see some super chats coming in. So before I get on to his comments on Bruno Fernandes' future, I'll bring in them super chats. So Amit, thank you very much for your super chat. We do appreciate you here in the United Stand community. He has said, if we don't sign a new midfielder in a few days and get an injury in the midfield, God forbid not, we could use Martinez there and Heaven can partner Maguire in centre-back. And yeah, you are right. We have options. Like Mount can play there. It's a very taxing position, and Mount isn't exactly a 90 minutes a week sort of player. He's a here and there sort of player, a quality player, but he is made of glass a little bit, so you've got to protect him. So it's not the ideal solution. Lisandro Martinez absolutely can play in the midfield. I just prefer him at centre-back. I'm going to be so honest, and I think he's important there. We do have players who can cover and play there. We can do it. But then, say if Luke Shaw got injured, which we hope doesn't happen, what if then Lisandro Martinez has to move to left back and Aiden Heaven comes in and then you struggle? It's a domino effect. We hope these things don't happen, but they can, and we have seen it before. So you've just got to be wary about these things and be prepared for it. Daniel Thompson says, hope you're well, Beth, in the United Stand. 6 years of our midfield magnifico. He's had ups and downs, but he gives his all every game and has contributed so much. Thankful for Bruno. Exactly. Nobody is perfect. Absolutely nobody is perfect in this world. And Bruno Fernandes certainly isn't perfect. But to me, he symbolises what a Manchester United player should be. Fearless, heart, leader, exceptional quality. I mean, will run through brick walls for you. He's, I think, underappreciated by a lot of people. And if he was in a different era of Manchester United, I think he'd be a lot more appreciated. He's not won anywhere near as much as he should have won and what he probably wants to win. I really hope he stays in the summer, because if there's any chance he can win another trophy for us, I'd love to see it happen. But yeah, I think he's such a quality player and person as well. But everyone's going to have different opinions, and that's the beauty of football. So that's all I can say. There will be people that don't think he's a legend. There'll be people that would laugh at you putting him in that box. There's people that, you know, think he can be, you know, kind of a little bit petulant and aren't a fan of the way he can lose the ball and he's a risk taker. There's two different sides to it. Some people absolutely love Bruno Fernandes and are worried about the impact it'll have on the team when he leaves Manchester United. That's football. Everyone's got opinions and they're different, and how boring would it be if everyone had the same opinion? But I sit on the side of, I think Bruno Fernandes is ridiculously important, and it's going to be it's going to be a very hard day when he leaves for a lot of people, I think. But you know, Manchester United will go on, of course it will, and it doesn't mean that Manchester United won't go on to win trophies when Bruno leaves. They will go on to win trophies. They absolutely will. It's not just a one-man band, but I just think it's good to appreciate what a player he's been for the years he's been at Manchester United. He did get asked about Bruno Fernandes and his future, actually, because obviously he's been at the club now for 6 years. It's quite a significant period of time, and I can't believe that 6 years of Bruno Fernandes, he's only won 2 trophies. He's won a Carabao Cup and an FA Cup, and him himself will be disappointed in that. And I think that's a motivator to why he stayed in the summer. I think he wants to win more with the football club. It's just whether Manchester United are ready to give him that platform. And if he's got to contribute himself. I'm not saying it's a free ride, and I think out of everyone, he has contributed the most. But it's whether Manchester United can give him the platform to go and win trophies. Because let's be honest, he could go and win trophies with the likes of a Bayern Munich. There was rumours that they were strongly interested in him. He could go and win things, Bruno. He's absolutely good enough, and he could get into a lot of, if not near enough every team in the world he could get into, near enough. So he could go and win trophies. It's whether he can do that with Manchester United and whether he'll stay, thinking that there's a project there to win trophies in the quite immediate future. Because he's not a spring chicken, he's not getting any younger, and he needs to start winning sooner rather than later. Because Bruno looks after himself very, very well. And I don't see any drop-off in his game whatsoever at this moment in time. How old is he? I think he's 31 or 32. Let me just double check on that. Bruno Fernandes. He's 31, so he's 31. Well, he's 32 on the 8th of September, so he's like halfway through being 31 years of age. I think Bruno could probably go at a very good level to around 35. So he's probably got four years left at a very, very good level. So he'd need to win things pretty soon. And Manchester United would have to speed things up quite a lot to prove to Bruno you can win things very, very soon. Because he wants to win big trophies as well. So anyway, Carrick got asked about Bruno Fernandes and his future and where does that lie. And he sort of avoided the question. He said, I have seen the impact when he first arrived. I was here. He had a huge impact. You could see the passion, how much he wanted to do well, his consistency and his level of performances. There is a lot to credit him for. He then gets asked again, well, what's his future because he wants to win things? Do you think he'll stay at the football club? Have you had that conversation with him? And Carrick said, we all want to win things, improve as a team, but Bruno has been fantastic. Nothing but good things to say about him. Let's not get too far ahead. Let's work towards this game and to the window closing. My main agenda is getting through Fulham and Bruno is fully committed. Everything is positive so far. So not really much of an answer on Bruno's future there because he probably doesn't want to speak for Bruno. And to be honest with you, Bruno probably is 50-50 on whether he's going to stay or go. I have absolutely zero doubts in my mind that from now until the end of the season, Bruno Fernandes will give absolutely every inch of himself, everything in him to Manchester United Football Club. He'll cover every blade of grass. He'll do everything possible to get Manchester United into the highest possible position because that's the type of player he is. Whether you enjoy his performances along the way or you don't, he will give everything. So I have no issue about his commitment because we know he's committed to this club. However, I think Carrick knows, Bruno knows, and it's very well reported that he's not 100% going to stay at Manchester United in the summer. I think he's very 50-50. I think, and this is just me thinking out loud, obviously I don't know Bruno. I know it's not as if I had a chat with Bruno Fernandes about what he wants to do with his future. I could be completely wrong, but from the outside looking in, I think in his heart he probably wants to stay at Manchester United because we know how much he loves the club, and I think there'll always be a small part of him that is frustrated that he's not won more than an FA Cup and a Champions League. I bloody wish that he's not won more than an FA Cup and a Carabao Cup with the club since he's been here. We know it was his dream to lift more trophies than that. So I think his heart will want to stay. But I think his head will tell him, I'm 31, I'm 32 in September. It's going to be my last big contract very, very soon. And I want to win trophies before it's too late. So I think there are a multitude of factors. If he goes to Saudi, last big payday before it's too late. Or he could go to another club in Europe, which I think is probably the most likely, to have an attempt at winning trophies before it is too late, more trophies. And for the quality of player he is, look, I wouldn't blame him if he chose to do that. I would be gutted, but I won't blame him. So I think Bruno's very 50-50 right now. I think, and this is just my gut instinct, I think Bruno will stay. I just have a gut feeling he'll stay. I think his head will be saying I should leave, but I think his heart will say I'll stay. And I think he will stay at the club. I think he'll probably get a new deal. And if we get Champions League football, I think he'll stay. If we don't get Champions League football, I think he'll leave. But if we get Champions League football, and I think we will, I think Bruno will stay. So let's see. Let's see on what happens there. Carrick also got asked about Fulham and he said, I don't think we need to make too much of it. The feeling in the group and the squad, the past is not too relevant in terms of what has worked before. It's a tough game, a really tough challenge. We're not taking anything for granted. That would be bang out of order, but we will deal with the game in front of us. So when he's saying I don't think we need to make too much of it, I think he was referring to games in the past where we've slipped up and maybe dropped points against Fulham when Manchester United should always be winning that game of football. So he's saying we don't need to make too much of the past. We need to focus on the game in front of us. We don't take Fulham for granted. That'd be bang out of order. We go in there and we do everything we can to deal with that game. And he was speaking up Fulham quite a lot, and what a good job Marco Silva has done as well. He's also got asked about Mason Mount there at the end, which I thought was quite interesting. This was the last question. I think the reporter I think it was a woman asking the question, was saying Mason Mount was such an important player to Ruben Amorim, was doing really well before Ruben Amorim left the football club. And since you've come in, he's only had a few minutes. Have you spoke to him about that, and what's kind of Mason Mount's future under you? And Carrick said, I'm a big fan of Mason. There are so many things to like about him. That's why we have a squad. I like Mason a lot. He's an important player for this team and for this club. He was saying he loves his personality, and he was basically bigging up Mason Mount, and he was basically saying just because he's not had minutes yet doesn't mean them minutes won't come. And again, I thought it was a great way to manage. Look, we've seen Michael Carrick make alterations to his starting 11, even when he has been winning. Yes, it was a different side when he took over as interim manager when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer got sacked. Just, by the way, bear this in mind. Michael Carrick is still unbeaten as Man United manager. And how many games is it now? You had Villarreal, Chelsea, Arsenal, City, Arsenal. 5 games unbeaten. So it's quite a good record so far. Let's hope we can make it 6 on Sunday. But when Michael Carrick was in the first time round, against Villarreal, he played Donny van der Beek, Martial and Sancho in the side. I think he played Ronaldo up front, but Bruno was on the bench, Rashford was on the bench. In the second game against Chelsea, Ronaldo was on the bench, and he played Bruno, Sancho and Rashford as kind of the front 3 to counter-attack, and he had a 3-man midfield behind that, Fred, McTominay and Matic. The fact I know this, by the way, from 2021. And then in the third game against Arsenal, he played Rashford off the left, I think it was, Sancho off the right, Bruno in behind, and then Ronaldo up front, so he changed it again. So he's changed his team in his previous time as interim manager, and he's probably going to give Mason Mount a chance as well. So yeah, I think it's a good way to talk up Mason Mount. Be ready, you will get minutes, but we've got a squad and we've got to deal with that. And I think players can take their minutes being managed if they're being spoken to in the right way, and you can see a purpose for your position and you're winning games. For example, do you think Cunha would have liked being on the bench? No, but he's handled it super well. Michael Carrick's clearly got in his ear and had a good word with him. He's come on and affected the game in the Manchester derby. He's come on and affected the game against Arsenal. He's probably going to start, let's be honest, against Fulham. He's earned that start and he'll feel really important. I was the match winner against Arsenal. Look at the praise he's got and what a feeling that must have been. I massively affected the game in the derby. I contributed towards that win. So it's about handling things the right way, and I think Mason Mount will get an opportunity. He's a good player. So let's see. I think what I will say, though, I do think Cunha will start against Fulham. I do think he will, because I think you can't not start him. He's earned his right to start after how well he's influenced the game against City and Arsenal. But what I will say, I think if you're trying to cover Patrick Dorgu's position, I think Mason Mount, okay, yeah, he's not a pacey winger that's going to make runs in behind every 2 seconds, but he gets around the pitch really well. He's got a lot of energy. He will cover. He will work back defensively. And Fulham are very good players down the wings, and they are very dangerous down the wings. And losing Patrick Dorgu's defensive work is just as frustrating as losing his offensive work as well. Like, he defends really well and covers Luke Shaw really well. Luke Shaw does a good job, but Dorgu works back well, just the same way Ahmad does, because he's had that right wing back stints and he worked back super well. It's an important part of the game, making sure you cover them spaces, cover them positions. So if you want someone to cover in that way, Mason Mount would be a really good kind of person to bring in. I think Mason Mount would cover Dorgu's position quite well with the attributes he has. I did have a dream, actually. I don't even want to bring it up, but I had a dream about that Fulham game, and that we started Cunha, and then we were looking at like the 60th minute to bring someone off the bench, and we had I don't know what was going on. We had no one to bring off the bench to come and win the game, and I was like, I knew I should have left Cunha on the bench to come on and whatever. I won't get into that. This is how much Manchester United is infiltrating my brain. But if it was me, like genuinely, dreams aside, I would start Cunha because I think he deserves it, and I think you can't not start him after he's scored the winner against Arsenal and done pretty well when he came on in the Manchester derby as well. So I think you've got to put that trust into Cunha, and you say to Mason Mount, look, can you come on and replicate what Cunha's done? Hopefully we're not in that position. Hopefully we're already comfortably winning against Fulham. But then Mason Mount gets that role, or Sesko gets that role of coming on off the bench, making an impact, and that's why it's good to have players you want to bring off the bench. And yeah, let's see what happens. A lot of people getting their comments in the chat as well. We have Jim Jack 6727 says Bruno cannot even get into City, Arsenal or Liverpool. Yes, he can. He'd get into all three of them sides. He would get into all three of them sides, and I would argue it with anybody. I think he would. So yeah, and if you want to say in replacement of who, he would start in Arsenal's side ahead of Odegaard. He would start in City's side in place of somebody, but he would start in City's side, and I think he would start in Liverpool's side as well, especially after the season they're having. So yeah, I think he would start in all three of them sides, to be honest with you. But look, everyone, he's the best cam in the league. And he's the best cam in the league. Bruno Fernandes is the best cam in the league. When he was playing in the midfield for Ruben Amorim, I still loved him as a player and he still had his moments, but he just wasn't a midfielder. He is a cam. And in that position, it's hard to beat him. It really is. Look, thank you I saw actually, last thing I'll say, I saw a little bit on TalkSport. I think it was Jason Cunditt and Jamie O'Hara, and they were discussing whether Cole Palmer is a better player than Bruno Fernandes or whether he will be a better player than Bruno Fernandes. Look, Cole Palmer is an absolutely excellent player and a fabulous talent. But I don't think some people realise the level that Bruno Fernandes is on. He's just on a different level. It's very hard in the cam position to find anybody in world football that is kind of past his level. Genuinely. He is so good, and I think if he was in a different team that was more successful, he'd be so much more appreciated. Ricky's probably watching this, like, clawing his eyes out, because he often does watch my press conference reactions. But, you know, everyone's better than Bruno Fernandes until it's time to be Bruno Fernandes. And, you know, I heard a lot of people saying comments about, well, you know, Odegaard's better than Bruno. Is he? He's not. Bruno Fernandes is better. Bruno Fernandes, and that's no slight on Odegaard. By the way, I think Odegaard is a pretty good player, by the way. Oh, phone's just dropped on the floor. I think Cole Palmer is a sensational player. But Bruno Fernandes, as a cam, as a creative attacking midfielder, he's just like very, 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 very good player, like exceptional player. So anyway, let's leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Smash a like on the video if you've not already. I really do appreciate it. Carrick feels quite positive going to that Fulham game, and look, I can't wait to watch Manchester United play football on Sunday. Hopefully we get a good result. We will be back here on Sunday for Countdown to Kickoff. We will be starting Countdown to Kickoff at 12 p.m. So make sure you are here. Make sure you get over here for them, because we've got so much coverage coming throughout the day. We've got Countdown to Kickoff, we've got the watch along, we've got the final score, we've got the fans forum. I'm super excited about it. And also tonight on That's Football, you have Bundesliga. So you have Bundesliga back tonight. It's not just a normal watch along, it's goal bridge, and you get to watch the game play out as it happens. So make sure you're here at 7:15. We're not here on the sister channel, which is That's Football. We've got loads of watch-alongs coming up this weekend on That's Football as well, so make sure you stay tuned for them. Big fixtures coming. I think I'm actually going to film like my prediction of each scoreline for my TikTok, so stay tuned for that as well, because there's some really big games, especially in the race for top 4 this weekend and that title race as well. Arsenal going to Elland Road. We'll be covering that on That's Football with a watch-along at 3 p.m. I mean, you've got Newcastle playing Liverpool. That's a massive clash you've got on the Sunday. You've got Spurs playing City, which is City's bogey team just after the United Fulham game. There's loads of good football on, so make sure you stay tuned for that as well. But look, everyone, thank you for watching. Someone's asking if my screen's cracked. It's not. I've got the best. Imagine if it was cracked then. I've got the best case in the world. This case off Amazon, honestly, could go through brick walls and it would still, a film would still be alive. But thank you for watching, everyone. Have a brilliant Friday. Yeah, have a good one, and we'll see you very soon.